And since you've been using your document camera for quite some time now, can you explain how you really use it in the courtroom and why you think it benefits you the most?
Well, I would say that the document camera is really indispensable for use in the courtroom, to the point where I purchased one specifically so I could train myself on how to use the higher functions. I think all of us who have seen the document cameras in the courtroom, we know how to turn it on and put a document underneath it and then turn it off. But there are a lot of other functions, such as showing x-rays and anatomical models, diagrams, and what have you, that if you spend a few minutes preparing yourself so it looks smooth and you don't waste the jury's time, it really can benefit the presentation of the evidence, and again, with an eye towards creating an indelible impression, a memory that the jury will take with them into the jury room and hopefully remember our facts and our evidence and believe that and be persuaded by it. So I would say some of the most typical ways that I would use the document camera during trial, one would be the use of medical records. I do medical malpractice work as a specialty, and in that case it is all about putting yourself, or in the eyes of the jury, putting themselves into the mind of the defendant to think about what he or she was doing at the time they were doing it. So you would have, for example, a very key entry in the progress notes. On such and such a date, Dr. So-and-so writes, saw the patient, temperature was X, the vital signs were Y, these were my impressions, this is my plan. You can actually pull this medical record out from a 600-page stack of medical records, put it on the document camera, and while questioning the witness say, well, is this what you were thinking at that time? And I would actually use a highlighter to highlight those passages as we're talking about them, finish questioning the witness. That document would later on be introduced in evidence and be brought into the jury room so the jury would have a chance to look it over, review it, and have their recollection brought back to it. And they would say, oh yeah, Mr. Fong was asking the doctor about this, and remember he said, whatever he said. So that puts them kind of in over the doctor's shoulder and lets them see what he or she was thinking while they were thinking it. And that can be very effective. And again, it can be very cost effective, because if you have a dozen of those entries, which could, taken together, be key in deciding whether the doctor was negligent or fell below the standard of care, what is your alternative if you don't have something like a document camera? You have to blow up each one of those and present them to the jury. So that's one way that I use the document camera at trial. Another way is through blowing up x-rays. In that same case that I'm thinking of, it was, I don't think I could have done it with a technology other than a document camera such as AVerMedia's. The issue in that case was my client's husband had developed an infection in his spine, a condition they call osteomyelitis, which actually caused his vertebra to dissolve. And on the x-ray you could see that instead of the normal building blocks that make up the spine, two of them actually looked like ice cubes that had been left melting in the sun. So what were the ways that I could use to highlight that and bring that condition to the jury's attention? Well, the traditional way would be to make a blow-up of it. And that probably would have cost, I'm guessing, somewhere between $500 and $1,000 to make it big enough, as big as what we did. But the way we used it, which I thought was very effective and very inexpensive, was to question my expert who was talking about this condition, and when we reached the point where he finished describing in words what osteomyelitis was and how it affected someone and how it would be very painful, and of course The idea being the defendant should have picked up on the fact that his patient had this condition. We turned down the lights, put on the X-ray onto the document camera using its light box, and because I had practiced beforehand in the hotel room to kind of get the exposure right so it would come out to maximum effect, next thing you know, there's a picture of what looks like, you know, the 2 ice cubes melting in the sun, blown up the size of the wall, and the jurors all gasped. It was very, very effective, and I think that's something they will never forget. So I thought that was very useful, and again, something that I couldn't have done otherwise. Certainly not in as efficient and cost-effective way as I did. Okay, so what else? Another way of using the document camera at trial is through cross-examination of witnesses using their depositions. Now, trial lawyers all know how to impeach witnesses with their depositions, and there's a sort of a time-honored format that we use, but it's normally all verbal. It would go something like this. Well, Mr. Witness, isn't it true you testified at your deposition that the light was, the stoplight was green? And the witness says, oh, I don't remember saying that. Or, no, the light was red. So you pull out the deposition and you say, oh, isn't it true that at page 64, line 10, you said the light was red? And then you go through that process and you sit down and that passes. With the document camera, you can actually visually show what the witness said in his or her deposition while you are reading from it, so that the jury can actually see as well as hear that this witness has testified 2 different ways in 2 different times. So the passage is put underneath the camera and it says, look here where the question says, what color was the stoplight? Your answer, sir, using the highlighter, you said the light was red. And then you follow up with, well, did you understand that that testimony was under oath? Yes, I did. And you remember where I asked you at the beginning of the deposition that if you change your testimony, that might be commented upon and it might affect your credibility in the eyes of the jury, et cetera, et cetera. So we're taught that people learn and retain information several ways. One, some people, it's all visual. They like to see things and they don't really hear things. So it goes in one ear and it comes out the other. Other people learn through listening, and they aren't so much visual learners. They're the auditory learners. So with the document camera, you can capture both of those. And again, the idea is the impression, the memory is indelibly put in the jurors' minds. They'll carry it with them into the jury room and they'll remember it. So it can be very, very useful to make maximum impact